This is another live radio link-up brought to you by the Government Communications, GCIS.
Time has gone 8 minutes after the hour, 6 o'clock, and it's a very good evening to you. Welcome to it. Our special broadcast is brought to you courtesy of Government Communication and Information System, the GCIS, together with the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. My name is Karabalance. Glad to be with you, and we're going to be doing this thing for the whole hour, coming up to 8 minutes past 7. So we're looking forward to it, and we're going to be talking about something that's very interesting this evening. So I would like you to be part of the show by way of questions, really, calling in and asking those various questions that you might be having arising from what we're talking about this evening, or maybe commenting. Maybe we might be saying something and you feel like, hey, maybe there's one or two things that I would like to add. You're more than welcome to do that. And the number to use, the number to dial, it's a toll-free number. It's 0800 142 446. That's 0800 142 446. It's a toll-free number if you're going to be calling from a cell phone. You can use any language of your choice, or the 11 official languages. We welcome them. Should we maybe at some point not understand any of the languages, we might ask you to translate in English. But don't draw back. Call in and ask in any language of your choice. You're probably wondering what we're talking about this evening. Well, this is episode how much? Is it 24, 29? This, if I'm not mistaken, right? Probably episode 29 this year. I must just check my stats, really. But what we're talking about this evening, very interesting subject that could benefit a lot of people. This is Legal Aid South Africa. We're going to be finding out a little bit more about what they do and how they can help you. So make sure that you don't move an inch, because you might be missing out on information. Because this is going to be a very interactive program this evening, we've decided to bring in two people this time around, okay? So we've got two guests in the studio. The first one, let me introduce her. She's not a stranger to you. She was here before. It's Advocate Elizabeth Nieuwoudt, coming from the Legal Aid South Africa. It's a very good evening to you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining us one more time.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
So there we go. As well as somebody who's new to us, but possibly from here going on, he's not going to be a stranger. He'll come and visit us more than once. This is Phillip Molekao. And Phillip is coming from the SA Human Rights Commission. Phil, thank you so much for your time and for coming through.
Thanks for inviting us.
So there we go. 0800 142 446. That's 0800 142 446. What we're really trying to do with these broadcasts, especially this one this time around, is to raise awareness about gender-based violence and the 16 days of no violence against women and children. That's exactly what we're going to try to push to do for this evening, all right? And also to express the mandate and the services of Legal Aid South Africa, how they can benefit you, and of course to communicate how the Legal Aid South Africa assists the target audience of the 16 days campaign, namely women and children and vulnerable groups. So we're looking forward to be pushing all of that coming your way, all right? So one more time, the toll-free number, 0800 142 446. 0800 142 446. Toll free if you're going to be calling from a landline. Facebook, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. You can get us there. Otherwise on Twitter at DOJCD_ZA. On Instagram it's at DOJCD. Let's kick off. Maybe let me start with you, Elizabeth. Maybe by just painting the picture in terms of the Legal Aid South Africa, the mandate that you guys have. What is it?
Our mandate basically comes from the Constitution. One of the human rights, which my colleagues will know more about, is that you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. So you have a human right. So Legal Aid started mainly to protect that right. Over the years we have grown, and we have actually now also have civil legal services that we render. And we also now focus more on education and information. So we provide legal services. And then we give legal representation at state expense in both civil and criminal matters. And now also, because we felt that we've grown to maturity, we're giving education and information to the communities.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's find out a little bit more about the SA Human Rights, the South African Human Rights Commission. And here you're going to jump in the film. And just tell us a little bit more about you guys and your mandate as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are a constitutional institution. As Human Rights Commission, we derive our mandate, our powers from the South African Constitution. In terms of powers given to us by the Constitution, 1, we've got the responsibility to promote the culture of human rights in South Africa. 2, to protect the violated human rights. 3, to also monitor human rights observance. I can say with no doubt that the service of the South African Human Rights Commission, just like the legal South Africa, they are also for free.
Mm-hmm. So don't pay. You're not bound to pay any of the services that you get offered. But we'll jump into that in terms of how that works around. So far you've heard from the Legal Aid South Africa as well as the SA Human Rights Commission. 0800 142 446. That's 0800 142 446. What is it that you would like to find out as we go on and talk about these awesome issues here? But now the main target groups that you service are intended for. Maybe let's start with you, Elizabeth. The target groups really which your services are intended for. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we focus on the vulnerable, and in terms of our policies, we see the women, children, the elderly and the landless as those vulnerable, the groups that needs our assistance the most. And then clearly the criminal part of the work is focused on the people that go through the criminal system that are accused of a crime.
Mm-hmm. So we've spoken about not paying for any of the service, and I would like us maybe to just to be a little bit more go into detail as far as that. Is it all of the services that are not being paid for from you guys, or is it some of them? Is there any qualifying criteria in terms of getting access to these services?
Yeah, all the services are for free. So once you've qualified for legal aid, and I will talk to you about how you qualify now, then everything is for free. So we will pay for sheriffs, for example, and publication in papers and so on. So that is for free. So if you do qualify for legal aid and legal aid provides you with a lawyer, you are not supposed to pay for that lawyer.
Right.
And then qualifying for legal aid, we have what we call a means test. So either you have no income, or if you do have an income, we have a little means test that we do. Basically, to put it very, very roughly, it's almost 5,500 rand. If you earn anything less than that, you would qualify for legal aid.
All right. I wonder if we can say the same about the SA Human Rights Commission. Maybe let's start by saying who approaches you. What would have happened if somebody wants to approach the SA Human Rights Commission?
In our case, any person who feels violated can always now approach the South African Human Rights Commission or any office of the South African Human Rights Commission in the 9 provincial offices. If you lodge a complaint with us and it falls within the scope of our work, we will accept that particular complaint. Then from there, conduct our investigations and make sure that at the end of the day, we are able to find a finality to your matter. If you still visit the South African Human Rights Commission and your complaint does not really fall within the scope of our work, we won't turn you away. We'll still not advise you accordingly and refer you to the relevant institution which will be best placed to deal with your complaint.
Let's give an example in terms of that. When you say the scope of your work, maybe a lot of people say, okay, we understand there could be a scope, but what is it exactly? Give us an example of somebody who approaches you, and what do they say if it's within the scope of your work, and what would it be something that's out of the scope of what you're doing?
Maybe let me give you an example with, especially in relation to child rights. Like let's say, you know that government has kind of identified a number of schools, especially in rural townships and semi-rural areas or semi-townships, that the right to access to education is free. These schools have been kind of classified and identified. Sometimes you'll find a school, one, the principal or a teacher might decide not to allow that learner to enroll because parents cannot really afford to pay school fees. Two, maybe, as you know that the corporal punishment is also not being abolished. You still not find situations whereby some learners still continue to be beaten, or maybe a corporal punishment being administered by a particular school. We are in a position to intervene and make sure that one, a learner is not expelled. Two, the teachers or a principal, they also not begin to comply with the laws of the country.
How is your relationship between it's very interesting because here we're talking about one aspect. There's a common denominator here, which is the right of of a citizen of South Africa. And something just came to my mind. What would your relationship be? Would you be involved in the same case, maybe, where we have a case and the SA Human Rights Commission is there, as well as the Legal Aid South Africa is there? Do we have something like that?
No, maybe to come in. Normally, like for instance, I think we should also know that we are classified as a Chapter 9 institution. So therefore, there are also institutions which are, doing more or less on the same work of like South African Human Rights Commission.
Mm-hmm.
The South African Human Rights Commission, like, as you know, the human rights now cuts across different fields of our lives or studies, and therefore, if the Commission receives a complaint in relation to culture, religion, we as a Commission will decide as to whether we accept that complaint, or maybe we of the idea or opinion that the Commission for Culture, Language and Religious Communities is best placed to deal with that particular matter, will therefore refer or transfer that matter to CRL Commission, or if it's a matter which can be best be dealt with by the CGE, Commission on Gender Equality, will be able to refer that matter to that particular institution. But what is important for us is, normally if a matter is in the hands of a particular institution, we don't really kind of we don't duplicate similar investigations.
Mm-hmm.
It's either one, we can come around the table and trying to find a possible approach to deal with that particular complaint.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, like for instance, even in our complaint form, we always ask the complainant, if you reported that matter to any of the institution, if you say yes, obviously we need to come try to establish what was the conclusion to that. But most of the time we obviously avoid parallel investigations.
Mm-hmm.
I think also maybe to say that in essence, Legal Aid South Africa is a law firm.
Right.
So our work is in courts.
Right.
So I think we are more the practical implementation, thank you, of the human rights. So
right.
We would be maybe through our impact services in our head office look at a class action, what we will call a class action, and then litigate that in court. Where I think the commission is more the investigating, and then maybe the referral. So they might
right.
refer something to us
right.
that we can take through the court. Yeah.
And it could be vice versa. You could go to them seeking more information on a particular case.
Yeah, or what we call friends of the court. So we might start with a case and we think, well, they might have something to contribute to our court case.
Right.
And we can go to them and say, don't you want to intervene in this case?
Right.
And help the court to come to a decision. So I think we're more complementary, like he said, that we're not in competition with each other. We're there actually to assist each other.
Right.
Maybe to add, that I think maybe outside court and also outside maybe say investigations, we often do more or less kind of collective joint outreach a program as part of our responsibility of trying to inform and empower communities about their rights, and in the event when they are violated, as to which organization will be best placed to deal with their complaints.
Right. 0800 142 446. That's 0800 142 446. I would like us to line up those callers. I can see those lines flashing. Let's move as fast as we can. Lady and gentleman on the other side. And by the way, we've got Lindaba Zibugo on sound, as well as Nontlantlan Dawonde. Nontlantlan being on the telephones there and ready and willing to be taking your call. 0800 142 446. That's 0800 142 446. I'd like to hear from you. Let's start talking about the contributions or the assistance that the Legal Aid South Africa has in terms of the 16 days campaign that we're currently running. Let's talk shortly about that.
Okay. I think we work with our stakeholders, what we call them. So that, for example, would be the Commission for Human Rights, the Department of Justice, and we pair up with them to do these kind of things like the radio show we're doing tonight, to make people aware of the services. Because at the end of the day, any campaign or any person that has a problem, if you know your rights and you know where to go to, you can start addressing the problem. So this kind of radio show is a big part of an awareness. We have 64 offices countrywide and 64 satellite offices.
Oh, wow.
And each of those offices are uniquely in a position to understand their communities that they function in. So what has happened during this this campaign so far is that in some of the areas, like in Cape Town, in Colesberg, in Port Alfred, in the Eastern Cape, the local officers has linked up with the communities to also make the communities aware of their rights.
26 minutes after 6 o'clock, and welcome back. This is a live broadcast that is brought to you courtesy of Government Communication and Information System, the GCIS, together with the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. Karabalans in the studio all the way with you up until quarter past 7, yeah? And it's going to be an awesome time, really. It's going to be an awesome time. Is Langi Malamba. It's a very good evening to you, Langi. Thank you so much for coming through. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure for me to be here. Good evening, listeners.
So there we go. So not two, all right, not one, but three people that I have in the studio, and it's going to be an awesome one because we're going to have contributions all the way. So thank you so much. We've already established, Langi, just to bring you into the picture, we've already established what the mandate of the Legal Aid South Africa is, and we spoke to Elizabeth, and she brought us up to speed in terms of that. We also spoke to Phillip from Molekao. Phillip just explained to us now what the South African Human Rights Commission, their mandate is. Maybe let's talk about your mandate as the South African Council for Social Service Professions. Tell us a little bit more about that.
The South African Council for Social Service Professions is a statutory council that has been established in terms of the Social Service Professions Act, number 110 of 1978. The Act is there to help regulate the profession in terms of the quality of education and training that is being given to the social service professionals, which can be a social worker, a child and youth care worker, or a social auxiliary worker. And the regulation also covers the students. So as they are practicing, because they do real life practice in communities, they have to register also. So the mandate of council covers 3 areas. 1 is registration, 2 is the education and training, and the 3rd one is professional conduct. So with registrations, we make sure that from the time somebody registers at university or at an FETC college to train as either a social auxiliary worker or a social worker or a child and youth care worker, they have to adhere to ethics codes, and they get trained the highest quality of education to make sure that by the time they finish with their qualification, they are fit for practice.
Right.
Then we register them. So there is a register that council will keep for all fit to practice members. And then the Education and Training Division deals with quality assurance of the standards which universities must adhere to in terms of curriculum, which the Council on Higher Education regulates them on or accredits them on. So we would work together with the institutions of higher learning or the FETC and the Health and Welfare Sector to make sure that the curriculum is not deviated from.
Right.
So if a learner or a student goes to institution X, the quality of the outcome would be the same, the exit level outcomes. So you can't have one university producing an excellent social worker or a child and youth care worker, and you go to another university, you find the standards are not the same. So we do the quality assurance visits. We make sure that we, support universities. We support the service providers who are assisting also with the FETC college tuition. And the last one, Professional Conduct Division, deals with helping the members of the profession, the trained social workers, child and youth care workers, and auxiliary social workers, to remember that everything that they do is governed by ethics. They have to take an oath, from second year level, saying I would maintain this codes and I would behave in this way towards clients, towards the community, towards other professionals, because as a council, we also promote multidisciplinary practice.
Right.
Because when you're working with an individual, you don't deal with them in silos. We have to be holistic in the way we bring in other partners to help deal with the problem. So we encourage that a lot, especially because in the continuum of service delivery, there's so many different aspects that each person will bring on board, not just within the social service professions sector, but also you tap on into justice, for example. You need to make collaborations with the education sector, with traditional leaders in community. So you have to be rounded as a social service professional, because at any given time, any social challenge that comes your way, you need to be able to bring in other stakeholders as well.
Right. Geez, that's a mouthful. I tell you what, I thought I was going to bring you up to speed. It looks like you've done it yourself. 0800 0800 what? 142 446. There we go. 0800 142 446. That's the number to dial. Are you hearing me clearly, Linda? Is my mic okay there? We'll get it right as we go along. Let's take maybe 2 callers while we're at it. I think we can open the telephone lines so far. So let's start in Florida, and we've got Dion on the line. Dion, it's a very good evening to you. After you is going to be Sam from Lenasia. It's a very good evening to you, Dion. Dion from Florida. Have we got a Dion from Florida there? Okay, let's move on and we take Sam from Lenasia. Hi, Sam.
Yes, very, very interesting thing happening, right? Because I think a lot of people would like to know exactly what they're getting involved in when they use the services of legal aid in Africa. I just want to find out whether consumer protection issues or related matters are dealt with by Legal Aid South Africa, and are they affiliated to the the council, like the National Consumer Council, and what would be the intervention in that particular one?
All right. Thank you so much. That's Sam from Lenasia. Have you got Leon back? I beg your pardon, Dion back rather. Dion is not back. Okay, we'll try to get Dion back. Or Dion, if you can call us back, we'll really appreciate it. It's 0800 142 446. That's the number to dial. That's 0800 142 446. 27 minutes before 7 o'clock. I think, Elizabeth, you can jump in into those 2 questions there quickly.
To answer the second part first, no, we're not affiliated with the Consumer Council, but we, like similar to like the Human Rights Commission, we do refer people. So let me maybe, if I can quickly just explain the process. So if a person approaches one of our offices, like I said, we have 64 offices, main offices, they will meet a paralegal. And that paralegal will have a consultation with them to see if it's something that we can do or if it's something that we can refer to another institution.
Right.
If it's something that another institution is better equipped to deal with, then we're going to refer them. So maybe to an ombudsman, the banking ombudsman, the long-term insurance ombudsman, the Consumer Council, the Human Rights Commission. So we would rather refer to those people that are the experts on that field. But if it's a consumer issue that we feel that might be litigated, yes, we can look at the matter. One of the criteria we have is we look at the merits of the matter. So if I say merits, the question we ask is that if we take this case to court, can we be successful? And if the answer is unfortunately no, then we're not going to take on the matter.
All right. And then the first one that... maybe we'll go back to the first one now shortly. Let's take Dion. I don't want to lose Dion again. So Dion, I've been told Dion is back, right? Let's take Dion. Dion, thank you so much for calling in. You're calling from Florida. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Dion, I'm going to ask you to please, I can hear you very clearly. One thing that I would like to ask you, though, is to please switch off your radio because it creates an echo, and thus in that way, when I'm asking you a question, it takes a bit of time to get to you. So just close your radio down. Have you done that?
Yeah, I've done that.
Thank you so much. So what is your question or comment?
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. I just want to know there's the Human Rights Commission.
That's right, yeah.
Where do we deal with the lawyers that are, misconduct or misrepresent themselves? Now, not actually deal with it, but we assist it.
Okay.
I think of the police organization, and then the lawyer refused. So I don't know, I went to the law society and they couldn't help me. I want to know if the human rights are the right place.
All right, you're saying you went to the law society, right? Would you care to share us in terms of? You don't have to really, if it's personal, you don't have to say it. But just for interest's sake, to give my guests a picture of the nature of complaint or services that you would have loved them to help you out with.
Yeah, look, I had a matter where a lawyer represented me that his junior attorney, and then he presented, he actually presented himself in his card and he should be said he's a professional attorney, even a traitor. but but later I found out it was not it. And apparently the lawyer had a certain bar of fees that he charged. He had overcharged me. And I went to the law society, and they actually told me that in my situation in a privileged field, and I'm sitting out and I don't know where to go. And the case is just solved.
Right.
What I want to know is, are they the right people to come? And what is their address?
100%. Thank you so much for that. Dion, thank you from Florida. Really appreciate it. I think this question can be tackled by all of us, really. But I'm looking at all of you, maybe from a legal point of view, SA Legal Aid, your input on that. But maybe let's start with you, Tata Molekao. Your response to that?
Oh, thank you very much for the question. Unfortunately, Human Rights Commission does not deal with the misconduct or misbehavior of lawyers, and therefore Law Society is best placed to deal with that kind of a matter. But let's hear what legal in South Africa.
Let's keep in mind that he went to the Law Society and he could not find joy there. Elizabeth?
Sorry, he broke up a bit, but what I got from the question, or what he was saying, is that the Law Society told him about taxing of the account. Now that is exactly what he must do.
Right.
Now taxing means that you must go to the taxing master at the court. I don't know which court the matter was, so if it was a magistrate court, he must go to the magistrate court, and then that account must be placed in front of the taxing master, and he then basically taxes it. So basically what it means is he takes the account and says, well, if the lawyer asked 100 rand for a letter, is that a fair fee or not? Then he can tax it down. So you can say, now 100 rand is not a fair fee, he must pay 50 rands. And then he works through the whole bill of costs. So the lawyer should have given him what we call a bill of costs.
Okay.
And that bill of costs he must take to the taxing master.
Right.
And unfortunately that process is the only process that you can follow, because then afterwards, if you then found that he charged you too much, then you can always say to him, okay, maybe if it's a smaller amount, go to the small claims court and sue him for the balance that is now owing to you. It's a very oversimplification of the process, but maybe that will give him some guidance as to what he must do.
That's as far as funds are concerned and anything that's got to do with payments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as far as misconduct is concerned with regards to legal practitioners, what is your take on that?
We do assist clients to issue summonses against attorneys that was negligent. It usually helps if it can be done in conjunction with the Law Society.
Right.
But a lot of times what will happen is we will issue a summons against the lawyer or the attorney, and then remember, attorneys have what we call a fidelity fund. Now, the fidelity fund is the insurance part of an attorney's practice.
Right.
So if they are then satisfied once we've issued summons, they will then step in and pay the claim. So yes, that is something that we look at, and again, we just look at the merits of the matter, because sometimes, unfortunately, it is a very subjective thing. If I lose my case, it doesn't mean that the attorney was negligent.
Okay.
It was just meaning maybe that I had bad facts.
Right.
So we just scrutinize whatever the application is to our office.
Okay. Malamba, your input on that? Anything from your point of view, maybe?
Well, I can only talk to conduct issues relating to our social service professionals.
Right.
For example, if a member of the public has an issue with how a social worker has, given them service, they would normally report it through to the office of the registrar, and I would refer it to our professional conduct division, where the registrar's committee for preliminary inquiry would actually do the first step of investigating whether indeed there was any professional misconduct. So if there's reason to believe that there is merit to the complaint, a letter is written to the person against whom an allegation has been laid, so that they can respond within a particular period prescribed in the Act. And then the next step will be to do an in-depth investigation.
Right.
And that committee is separate from the one that does the preliminary inquiry, so that there's no bias. So it goes to the next step, and then the third step would be a disciplinary hearing, wherein the complainant is allowed to bring a legal representative.
Right.
Yeah.
You're giving an example of a social worker, right?
Yeah.
Lawyers, where do they fit? Are they part of the picture now?
No. They subscribe to a different council. I think they've got their own
Law society.
law society, which
Right.
almost is the same as what council is.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, 0800 142 446. That's 0800 142 446. But you probably wonder what I'm laughing at. I'm looking at my producer. I've never seen him so out and about and so up and about this evening. I tell you what, I've never seen so many red lights in the studio like I'm looking at right now. He's it's a handful what we have, and you're doing a good job, I must say, Linda, as well as Lontan from the other side. Thank you so much, guys. Let's take a caller from Lekwa FM and go with Menyana. And I'm not talking about you, man. Aaron's from Lekwa FM, one of the producers stood up. That's the one that put contents together. All right. So what we're dealing with today, he puts it together, and he wants me to give him praise. Now hold on, yours will come at the end of the show. All right, let's take Aaron's from Legua FM. Aaron's?
Yes, how are you?
I'm good, and you, sir?
No, I'm fine. Good evening also to your guest in the studio. My question is that what, if we had a problem about removal from debt review, let's say you were under debt review, there are any means that we can help you to remove your name under debt review? Because now, if you can see that most of the lawyers that you try to get the help from them, they will be wanting a lot of money. For example, if you want to remove them from debt review, you will be wanting the JW form, all those things that you don't know about them. From there, you need to sex to them. Then another question for me was that maybe let's say we are in the small claim court, and then who's going to represent you on the small claim court?
All right, thank you so much. This is Aaron's from Lekwa FM. Let's take Anonymous from El Dorado Park. Anonymous?
Good evening, how are you?
Very well, and yourself. Thank you so much for calling in.
Even to the other people in the studio.
Yeah, they're listening.
I'd like to just find out, yeah? Look, according to, I heard just now, there was something about schools also. Now, if a child is like in a special school, a grade school, right? When their grade, they must treat it like grade 9 when they finish. Are they not supposed to get their papers when they finish in a testimonial letter?
Okay. All right. I can hear you clearly. I just wanna make sure that I've understood you.
I'm disappointed because my child too is so well, and I'm not gonna press my children down because they can do work with their friends.
Okay.
They do the welding job very good, but it seems to me I've got a problem with the teacher.
All right. I think let's do this. What is exactly the problem that you're having with the teacher? What is it exactly that they're doing?
I was there about 3 weeks ago, and then the one finished about 3 years ago. Up till now, I still can't get testimonial letter to show that you did welding. The one finished now, today. The grade 9 is like cemetery. But now he just got his report, and he said the teacher didn't want to give his letter to show that he took up welding and he did very good also in the welding. So how will my children get to work with?
All right. Okay. Did they give any reasons why they're not? You calling it a testimonial? I mean, I heard kids today were getting reports on. Is it a form of a report that they get as well? Did she or he get their report?
It's a normal report, but I mean they want to much know. How did they do the welding and things like that? You understand? And that was actually his main course because he's actually helping their home fixing the thing. Yeah,
but why? What is the reason given? Why are they not getting their reports or their testimonials?
I think the teacher. I'm sorry to say that I want to say anonymous. The teacher's got a problem. Really, really got a big problem.
So you think it's a personal problem? This?
It's a special school where they go with. You know, children that doesn't like reading and writing and this. There's the other one now rather is learning computers now.
All right. Okay. All right. We're gonna see how we can tackle that. Anonymous. yeah, we're going to see how our guests can tackle
You know
that.
what? Last week, to be honest with you, 3 weeks ago, the car bumped me, and his grandmother. I'm so frustrated and irritable. I actually took the plaster off my leg myself because I'm prepared to go back to the school.
All right.
Find out what is this problem.
All right. Thank you.
Even if he looks at you, he can't even reach you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Anonymous from El Dorado Park. Really appreciate that, really. And let's give other people a chance. I think I've grasped, just the contents of what she was talking about. 0800 142 446. Maybe let's start with this one before we forget it. I'm just going to open it up to you guys and just your contributions. I'm not even going to say who must take whatever. Just
Okay,
jump in there.
I'll start with the last question. I think fortunately there's always a side to the other story.
Mhm.
Maybe we can take details of the lady and try to get more facts about that particular case and see as to how we can intervene.
Mhm.
But because as far as I know, I think normally at the end of the year, children or learners get a statement of no results,
Mhm.
not testimonial.
Mhm.
But if that's what she wants, obviously she needs to go back to the school and ask for a testimonial. But like I was saying, we'll try to get contact details and see as to how we can intervene as Human Rights Commission.
All right.
Thank you.
Human rights, as far as they are, I mean, you would be in a better position to educate me on that. But would I be mistaken if I say children at the end, or learners or pupils at the end of the year, have got the right to get their results, or does it vary from one school to another?
Learners have got a right to get their statement of results at the end of the day. Yes, we once had this particular case. I think it was somewhere in Limpopo, where a learner, almost for a period of 3 consecutive years, that particular learner was not getting a statement of results because her parents could not afford to pay school fees. Up until I think someone blew a whistle.
Mhm.
So obviously, to teachers, especially in public schools, we are saying to teachers, don't punish children because they come from poor families. That's not really their problem. And the government is also quite very clear that no learner should be excluded on the basis that parents cannot afford to pay school fees, parents can't really afford to buy uniforms. So therefore, all what you're saying is principals, teachers don't punish learners.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, Elizabeth, from a legal point of view, should she want to pursue this legally, and she fits the means test, would the legal aid SA be able to assist
This
on
is
that?
not a legal problem.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not a legal problem.
If she
So-
raises it to be one, can she do that?
But
Can she say,
no,
I'm going to take
but-
this legally?
No, because just because I think it's a legal problem doesn't make it a legal problem.
Okay, what do you mean by
Yeah,
that?
so yes, I might want to. It's about expectations.
Right.
Everything unfortunately cannot be resolved in a court.
Right.
And I think my colleague here from the Human Rights Commission is quite right. That is typically something they would sort out.
Yeah.
Because it sounds to me more like a bit of a clash of personalities.
Yeah.
Again, that's not a legal problem. I think more a social worker problem, maybe also a bit of a mediation maybe is more needed than a lawyer. Lawyers we are fighters, we are there to solve problems, and these kind of problems are not resolved through fighting.
Yeah.
You need somebody
Yeah.
that takes hands and set everybody down and say, okay, let's all breathe and let's see what is the root cause of this problem. So that's why let's say this is not a legal problem
Right.
now.
Ma'am Malamba?
It sounds to me like there's a little bit of a problem with, if you're in a special school, because I think that is what she's saying. It's not a normal school.
Yeah.
So it's a school where children with learning disabilities or some kind of mental they are mentally challenged or intellectually challenged, go to that particular school to learn some trade.
Mhm.
And in this case, she's mentioning welding.
Mhm.
So the expectation would be at the end of their, whatever
The year,
learning
yeah.
they've done,
Mhm.
they need to get something that can market them in a way to say, whereas this child's IQ is at this level,
Mhm.
they can actually do something. Here is what demonstrates their years.
Yeah.
And I think she's saying it has happened twice, which makes her to conclude that the teacher has a problem against maybe her children or something. But I believe that any institution, whether it's for mentally challenged kids or anything, have got a management, a school governing body.
Mhm.
So Anonymous need to go to the school principal and find out this has happened. What is the school policy or the institution's policy? Her children are now over age and they need to be able to fend for themselves. They've learned the skills, but they don't have the proof. Can the school write her that testimonial to say they've done welding, they've done carpentry, and some exhibit, maybe the certificates and stuff like that. So she just needs to communicate more clearly with the institution head, look for the committee, and present a case and say it has happened twice, which means there is something personal.
All right. 8 minutes just before the hour, 7 o'clock. And Anonymous, I hope you've heard that. One thing that we can do just to take it a step further, really, we'll take those details down of Anonymous and give it to our colleagues at the Justice Department. Maybe we can link them up with somebody, maybe another department, sister department, maybe Department of maybe Social Development, maybe. We can look into that type of thing. Maybe Department of Basic Education, that type of thing. We'll look into it. We'll take the details down. And let me take the two callers quickly, and then we'll go back to Aaron's questions. All right, let's take a caller from Rustenburg, and this is Morake. Morake from Rustenburg. Dade Morake. Morake?
Yebo, sabona.
Kunjani?
Ngiyaphila baba, ngiyaphila.
Ubaba unsele lo mos.
Yebo.
Manje mina ngiyanyasho phela emsakazweni ngithi we Morake kanti hayi ubaba unsele. Baba unsele kunjani?
Khona.
Ngiyaphila man. Umbuzo wakho uthini?
Mina issues amabili nkosana sensenza isikhathi asekho. Ama issues awufunga ngaba ngashaba umshana wami. Wangishaya umshana, wangifuqa imoto. Ngamanye amazwi ngokucabanga kwami lokhuza nerobbery ne-assault. Mase ngemaphoyiseni, amaphoyisa afika statement athi bona athi ngishayile and ngishayile mase sebenzisa and he used my car. Abakusho ngokuthi ulokhuzena ungasolile balokhuza imoto ngithathele imoto. Imoto wayishayisa, sengakwazi ukudrive. Wangena emotweni wangithutha imoto wafuna ungishaya wangishaya wafuna ukugwada nebhodle mase ngiya amaphoyiseni ashiye istatement and okubili mase ngithi ngiyoripota umphathi steshi umphathi wakhona simfanele umphathi steshi wathi uzothatha iy'nyathelo uzowabika amaphoyisa uzongifonela kuze kwemanje akazangifonele. Okwesibili-ke
yayenzeka nini baba unsele? Yenzeka nini?
Yenzeka mhla 2 October.
Wona lo this year.
Wona lo nyaka kwenze October kuthi benzama ukufonela sokuthi manje isikhathi sesiphelile ukuthi ngiyafuna ukungena kulolu daba ngazo lesi.
Okay.
So ijustice abakwenzileke waboshwa for 10 days. Kodwa mase iqala abaqhubela mina ngamulu bale sengihlangana naye lapha abangitshela bavele balokho bamkhipha mase ngiyakumshushisa angijabona mase ngiyakumshushisa ngikhipha kanjani umfana lokuzaleni mina ningangitshelanga ngelanga lecala umuntu okwakuyena owayemangalelwa mina ngangimangalelwa but besiyeke isimo sesiphele ngoba bazivumile icala simfayilisile samfayilisa ulokhuzana samfayilisa 1000 3 months samlenzela 3 months ithi mina phela bengeko mina anginankinga nokodwa befuna ngibe khona.
Okay.
Umshushisi kimi hayi kwakukhona ingxenye yomndeni wakho lapho eyathi awunankinga umfana sinamkhipha.
All right. Yes.
Yonke negama lakhe so mshushi baba yiloko kungithethe kabi ukuthi justice ayisebenzanga kahle yini kwimanje nje angekho safe.
All right. Thank you so much, Babunsele, calling us from Mpangeni there. We'll see how we can tackle that one there. All right, let's go to Renberg. And this is Lebo from Renberg. Lebo?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and you, Lebo?
Good. This one is actually on behalf of my sister because I heard that, you guys talking about the legal issues. So the story goes, she's a single parent and she's got an additional property that she's renting. And the tenants have been giving her a very hard time this year. Either they've been paying the rent late or they are now 3 months in arrears. And every time they've been promising her to pay, but they are not paying. Now she's since given them a notice to vacate the premises to end the lease contract, but which was supposed to end of November. They were supposed to come out end of November. Then 2 days before, she called me to say that she's got a meeting with the tenants and they promised to pay before the last day of the month all of the money that they owe her. But till today, they haven't paid her. What can she do in that regard?
In total, how much are they owing?
It's close to 16,000.
16,000. I was hoping for, keep my mic on. I'm talking also to my producer. When I'm asking this question, how much in total, I was hoping for representation in the small claims court. By the way, it's less than 15,000. So this is 16. It's just over by 1,000, unless she's willing to compromise and go for a 15.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see how we can tackle that one from a small claims. I think that could possibly be the immediate route that she can take. But I mean, you guys can advise on that level. We'll try to tackle that one on air. Just listen, okay?
Yeah, the thing is, I think my personal view is that they are taking advantage because there are two married couples, they are both working, and my sister is a single parent, and now they are taking advantage because now they are moving the goalpost every time. It's either they'll pay her, then they don't pay her, it's becoming very strenuous on her, and I've been helping her out financially, but I can't anymore.
That's fine.
I feel that, these people are taking her for a ride.
That's fine, Libs. I get order. There's a contract that's in place.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good place to start. All right, so we'll tackle it from that point of view. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in.
Okay.
Absolutely, do that. Thank you so much for that. Let's start with this one and walk our way backwards. Let's start with you, Elizabeth. Like I said, I mean, the first thing that came to my mind is 16,000 rand. Could it be small claims type of thing? And it's just over by 1,000 rand. But what could your advice be on this regard?
Unfortunately, she has a twofold problem.
Right.
The one is the money problem, which is the arrears, which you are quite correct. She can go to the small claims court, and I would really advise her to forget about the 1,000 rand and just go to the small claims court. It's quicker, it's cheaper, you do it yourself.
No legal representation?
No representation, so really you can do that easily. Your other problem, unfortunately, is now to get those people out.
Yeah.
And that is what we call the eviction process.
That's
now,
right.
the law is very clear. You cannot take the law into your own hands. You cannot now just change the locks on the places that you are renting out.
Okay, it's getting very interesting now.
Because that boils down to an eviction. Because basically, what you are stopping them from accessing the property that they are renting.
So, what can she do if they don't pay this as they promised?
Then,
number one, we said, okay, if she wants the 16,000 rand, twofold problem. You said, if she wants the 16,000 rand, she can compromise the 1,000, go to the small claims court where it's a 15,000, no legal representation. They're sorted out. But if she could say to us now, I want them out.
Unfortunately, that is a very, very, very long process of getting illegal occupiers out of your rental property. You have to give them notice, and if they don't move out, you have to bring an application to court, and only a court can evict people. So you must get a court order that say these people must vacate the property, and that court order can only be executed by a sheriff.
Right.
So the sheriff, if they then after the court order, you got the order and they don't move out, then you must pay the sheriff usually between 5,000 and 10,000 rand to physically come and take their stuff out of the property and physically and throw it out onto the
curb.
Yes, yes.
The curb,
that, unfortunately, there was a recent judgment by the Con Court that made the whole eviction process just a little bit more difficult. It was difficult to start off with. Now it's just a bit more difficult. So there's a very fine balance between the rights of the illegal occupier and the rights of the owner of the property.
Let's tackle those rights a little bit. Let's explore those rights a little bit there. And then
okay. Just to come in, I mean, I think all questions raised, they don't really fall within the scope of our work. But maybe just a follow-up now to Liz. I'm not so sure as to whether the Gauteng Housing Tribunal will be able to assist. She can now go there and try to get them to intervene. It's because it's a dispute between the landlord and the tenant. Because going the legal route, unfortunately, will be a very expensive process, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah. The housing tribunal sometimes they do a bit of a mediation, and then they refer things to a tribunal. That is a time-use process.
Right.
And unfortunately, for the time that process runs, they still stay in your property. They're still not paying your rent. They're usually using water, electricity, and so on, which they are not paying for because they're not paying rent. So sometimes, you must make a choice and say, what is the quickest way that I'm going to resolve this problem? Can I maybe just say with regards to labour, and also, was it Aaron that called from, can't remember from where he called.
It was from Lekwa.
Yeah,
Lekwa
Lekwa.
FM, yeah.
We have a toll-free advice line. And I think a lot of times people would sit at home and think, I have a problem. Can I not just quickly call somebody?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the questions maybe with the debt review also is called the advice line.
All right.
I can give the number. It's 0800 11 0.
Okay.
And then you might find, at least if they can show you in the right direction, at least,
Right.
and then you can take it from there.
All right. Malamba ke utlogela on this one. Yela siara naka.
No.
Re utlogela.
Definitely.
Reafi. Ngire mo ya babunzel. Babunzel wants to find out of an unfortunate situation happened. And this is really, I mean, coming from our cultures. I mean, umntwana ushaya ubabakhe, and that's, yeah. So he says his nephew assaulted him and robbed him of his car. Went away with it, lodged a case. Case was reported. He had to make follow-ups on that, right? And then he went to the station commissioner who promised to do something with it. Station commissioner did something with it. Nephew was arrested. Nephew incarcerated. But now, nephew released with a fine. His problem is that he was nowhere to... So in other words, he did not play any part in terms of his arrest. He never appeared in court. He was never there. He just heard nephew arrested, nephew is out now. So what about me, the victim? What can he do? You want to take in you're more than welcome to jump in. Or should we start with Elizabeth and come this way again? Let's do that, Elizabeth.
Unfortunately, in terms of the criminal justice system, the prosecutors, once the docket is with them, the prosecutor will decide on how to prosecute the case, and a lot of time there is more a bit of a negotiation going on to say, this is you're the first offender, this is the kind of charge.
But shouldn't I be there as a victim? Shouldn't I be there throughout this whole process?
I think it's one of those situations, and here the Human Rights Commission, I think, can also jump in to say
Absolutely.
that there's the prosecutors don't always consult with the complainants in criminal matters to say, would you be okay with this? There is a move in the justice system, what we call an ADR, sort of alternative dispute, restorative justice kind of approach, to say, yes, we must first, because it's a family member. So I would think this is an ideal situation where actually the prosecutor would have used this more restorative justice kind of approach to say, let's get everybody together.
Yeah.
And have a discussion and see what we can do to restore the family, not only the family relationship, but to make everybody feel better, the one that was assaulted and lost his car. But I think in reality, unfortunately,
it doesn't work that way.
That doesn't always work that way.
But at the end of the day, he was not consulted. He was nowhere in the processes. What can he do if he feels, look, I want to say something, I want to vent out, I want to, what can he do? Can he approach you guys?
Again, it's social problem, legal problem, more social problem.
Yes.
I suppose you can go to the senior prosecutor at the court of where the case was held and where the sentencing take place. But the problem he has is now, this is now a done thing. The case is now done. It's over. He's been fined. He's been sentenced.
So it cannot be...
you cannot revisit it. So maybe more something that falls within the ambit of a social worker, a bit of family intervention, a family conference. But a nephew, unfortunately, life has taught us, and the social worker will tell you that a nephew with that kind of attitude, the chance that he's going to come to a table to tell his uncle he's sorry,
get a bit of a hiding, and just not with
the recent case law.
No, that's not. No, I'm just joking. All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take one caller. We're not going to be able to take all three callers. I'll tell you why. Because with three guests, really, we need to get inputs from them as well. So it elongates the whole thing. So let me take one. Can I take who? Mboro? Yeah. Let's take Mboro quickly. Mboro from Kungulu. I beg your pardons. All right, let's take Partco. Partco, yeah? Partco, are you there? Uzakudeba ke wena mfowethu.
Ngiyabulele bawukarabo ngiyabulisa apho kuwe ndibulise lapha kumama okaLegal Aid kumama okaSocial Development
Awuzwe
nakutata we-NPA
and not MPA. Wait a minute, what's wrong? You did the same thing yesterday. You did the same thing. No, utata we are from SA Human Rights Commission.
Human rights
Awuzwe, go for it, Baba. Yeah.
Manqale pha kumama uLungimalanga umama uLungimalanga uthetha nge-social workers xa ithethe nge-social workers uthi i-social workers ziyakwazi ukuthi well zibe ziyaregistrarishwa and then zifundise zibuye zenze practically zihambe zokwenza umsebenzi okunqamini apha eAlvani i-social workers zihlale ofisini uzazibona xa kwenze izenye ka-social development ibe kungona abaphakama ubona hayibo nansi i-social worker kodwa njena nje azikwazi ukuthi zivele ziye ebantwini zi-athende iingxaki zabantu i-social worker zifuna ukwazi ukuthi phaa kuyo uba ingabe into enjalo ilungisa njani bayi-one kaSi-Alvani besebenza eliyi-social worker endimaziyo ibingumbasa bamsuse eAlvani andazi bamsana umbuzo wami wokuqala lo.
All right, let's make it one. Patko, I think we're running out of time. I'm sorry for this. You know, normally I do give you about 3 chances to hit your questions, right? Let me just give you one. We still have a question or two to answer. So let's wrap it up on this one. Thank you so much, Patko, for calling in. I really appreciate it. So it's gone for 8 minutes after 7 o'clock. Let's start with this one of Patko, and we'll take the last 2 questions quickly. I think he speaks about proactively getting involved of social workers. He's worried about, he says social workers in his area just sit around and do nothing and wait for social development day or something like that to come. And only then does the community realize that we've got social workers in the area. Your input on that?
It's a difficult one because, you know, we have the government social workers who are working for the department. So some of them, the nature of their work requires that they are office-based. People must go to them. And we've got social workers for non-governmental organizations, your child welfare, NICRO, and so forth. Some are community-based organizations.
Right.
They will do the more visible work, where you can see them doing home visits, you know, tracing where's the mother of this child, doing the kind of visible social work interventions in the community or in schools. It depends on the programs that they're doing. It depends on the scope of practice for that particular social work agency. So if it's a SASA kind of agency, they don't go around in communities. They wait, people come to them, complete forms and so forth. So you have your adoption social worker. So it depends really on what is the line of work that they do. You know, if it's a social worker based in the community for various reasons, they've got outreach programs, they've got school-based programs, programs for the churches, for the elderly, and so forth. You would find that there is more engagement with communities.
Right.
Like I said in the beginning, that we're promoting multidisciplinary approaches, you know, where somebody cannot just work in isolation. Even if you're dealing with office-based kind of work, you do sometimes need to refer for other practitioners to also give input in relation to the life of this person that you assist in. So it's also, you know, a mindset issue where people think, you know, I'm going to be sitting behind a desk and that's it. You know, people must just come to me. So if a community member really feels aggrieved about how they are being serviced, they need to find the most senior person in that organization to find out how are we supposed to be given a service. We're not happy because we've never seen these people, except now during the 16 days campaign, or when there's, you know, food handouts and all of that, or the minister is coming, then you start to see people coming around. So they need to know where to report.
Okay.
You know, go and find out who's the supervisor in this organization. If they don't find joy with that particular organization, they are at liberty to contact us at council. But we encourage people to first lodge the complaints with the employer, because council is not an employer. Council regulates the behavior of the professionals. But we encourage that if somebody finds a problem with a practitioner, they must find out who's the employer, who's the supervisor, lodge a complaint so that disciplinary processes can happen within the organization. And if it is found that there's professional misconduct, they refer it to council.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Grievance procedures. Okay, here's the last one. Quickly. It was from Aaron's, and we partly answered his second question that had to do with small claims court representation, and we did mention that you don't need representation on that regard, right? But his first question was the removal of debt review. Where can he go? What must he do?
See, what always bothers me, when you are placed under debt review, you work through a debt counsellor.
Mm-hmm.
And that debt counsellor is the one that usually brings the necessary applications to court to place you under debt review.
Right.
So it should be the debt counsellor that
who does the
takes
procedure,
you out again under debt review.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have to go to a lawyer, these are not expensive proceedings. Are usually all in the magistrate court, so it's cheap, fast kind of proceedings. Unfortunately, with legal aid, I always say it, and I know it sounds harsh, but if you have debt, then you have money to make debt, and then you don't qualify for legal aid most of the time.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, a person that has no income cannot really make debt.
It's just that we're running out of time. It's just that we're running out of time. That was really it's. I understand where you're coming from, but I was going to say, I mean, if somebody could say, oh, but I mean, but now I'm in debt. Now I'm in debt, and I'm trying to come out of debt, but I still need assistance. You know?
Yeah, remember our mainstays work on your income.
Okay.
So yes, you might have a 30,000 rand income, but your debts are, you don't have enough money every month to pay all your debt. Therefore, you're under debt review. But you do have an income of 30,000 rand. You are not indigent. You are not part of a vulnerable group.
If I owe 2,000, if I earn 3,000 rand, and I'm in debt.
Yes, but then you qualify. That's why I say I'm not saying it's an absolute exclusion,
okay.
but I'm just saying that
you're treading on thin ice when it's like that. Right?
Yeah. So I mean, because I mean the banks do give credit very easily, but not that not that easily. Yeah. But I mean, So yes, it's something that maybe he can call our advice line, because they will easy to few questions. And then they will be able to then send him in the right direction in terms of if they must go and apply at one of our justice centres or one of our offices, then they will send him to the nearest one and say you can go to that office and give him an address and a telephone number and so on. Yeah.
Nicola, there's so much month at the end of the money. At times, it's a struggle, really. And that was the voice of Advocate Elizabeth Nieuwoudt, coming from the Legal Aid South Africa. Also the voice of Phillip Molekao, SA Human Rights Commission. Malamba from the South African Council for Social Service Professions. Thank you so much to my guests, and come again next time. Let's do this. There's so much to talk about. There's so many callers who've called in that we could not get to, but hopefully we'll do this next time. Thank you so much for all of you.